Right, well, good morning. Thanks for having me back. This is Head Teacher's Questions number 2. The last one I felt went very well as far as you gave me a chance to give you some updates about what's happening in the school. And I hope to be able to do the same again today. So, handing over to Compare, Darren.
Right, so today we've got 9 questions and 3 follow-up questions. Right. First follow-up question is, can the school get Eco a digital community game?
So this question was asked last time. Darren, myself and a few others had a wee look into it. And based on the pros and cons, I've decided that we will not be buying Eco. The reason for that is predominantly it is a digital platform that allows you to become part of a digital community. What I want for you, what your teachers want for you, and what your families want for you is to become part of a literal physical community, which you are here at Kaimes. So if Eco and developing skills around society is something that's important to you and your families, then we need to look at that. But we need to do it properly, and through a game on a computer is not the way I would choose to move forward with it. So we will not be moving forward with the purchasing of the Eco game. But a very good question, and I'm happy for those kind of questions to come again. Thank you, Darren.
Second follow-up question, why is there no options on Monday through Thursday?
So this is an historical timetabling curriculum thing. Options are on a Friday. And as we move through reviewing the curriculum further, particularly after February, we will see the school day start to look slightly differently, with maybe some changes to the length of the periods, maybe to what afternoons look like, and what Friday mornings look like. So watch this space for some changes for the better around curriculum after February. Thanks, Dan.
Third and final follow-up question, why can't seniors do horse riding?
So there are 2 main reasons for this. The slots that we do have are full of primary learners as far as availability is concerned. The second thing is we're all getting bigger and taller and heavier, and there are some weight restrictions around the horses because they are smaller horses. So those are calling you heavier growing human beings, Daniel. Well, am I fat? Don't comment. So that's why there is no horse riding at the moment for seniors.
Alright, moving on to today's questions. Question number 1 from Kaimes Burge. Can we have a playground for secondary?
Okay, so this is it's a lovely question and something that we're looking to address next term. And I'm going to kind of answer 2 questions a little bit with this one. One of the other questions I think is about being listened to.
Yes,
and we actively want to listen to what you have to say. And after the holidays, Mr. Loney is going to reignite the Pupil Council, and that will be a platform for you to feed in all these kinds of ideas and, importantly, have a say in what they look like. So I'm certainly not off a secondary playground. We've got secondary outdoor space, but you're talking about physical things to play on, James. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's not off the cards. We're going to look at it in the new year, and we'll collect views through this new version of the Pupil Council.
Any further points on that matter? No? Alright. Moving on. Question 2 from Stephen W. How did you become head teacher?
So, to my knowledge anyway, in Scotland, all head teachers have to start off as classroom teachers. So I finished school, went to university, became a PE teacher, and then after I was a PE teacher, I became a guidance teacher, which many of you will not know what that is, but it's basically someone who looks after a group of children and does a lot of planning for them and their family. Then I became a deputy head teacher, then I became a head teacher over in Pilrick Park on the north of the city, and then I became head teacher here. For those, I suppose, who want a bit more detail in it, I had never had any aspirations. I never wanted to be a head teacher. Never. I wanted to help people, and I knew that because when I was at school, I used to be heavily involved in the Duke of Edinburgh's Award and the cadets and other things. And I liked being outdoors and being active, but I also liked teaching the younger kids, or at the time instructing the younger kids. And I got a lot of joy seeing me give them some information, them learn it, then them be able to do it for themselves. And if the question is, how did you become a head teacher? It was going right back then and seeing what can happen if you spend time with people and you invest time and you help people and you can see what they can become. And that stayed with me all the way through, and it's no different now. Thanks, Dan.
Any other further points on that matter? No. Alright, moving on. Question 3 from Casey. When will the bikes get fixed?
Good. So we had Darren's like, oh yes, when are the bikes getting fixed? We had the Edinburgh Bicycle Cooperative are going to work with us. They're a bike company in Edinburgh. I worked with them before at Wester Hales, and they're a very reputable company. They came out about a month ago. They looked at all of our bikes and they graded them as fit for use, little bit of work being done, a lot of work being done, put in the bin. So we now have about 18 bikes earmarked that will be fixed in the new year with things like new tyres, new brake pads, the gears will be fixed, and they will be roadworthy hopefully by the end of January, middle of February. The reason we haven't rushed to get them fixed now is because if you look outside this week, it's almost been too dangerous to walk on the paths and roads where it's not been salted. So we don't want to put you on bikes where it's slippery, and if they're fixed now, you might go and do that. So we're just holding off until the new year. You're right, Dan. Holding off till the new year, and then they will be operational. Certainly, as the warmer days come, we will have 18 bikes between the big bikes for secondary learners and senior secondary, and the littler bikes for first year and primary learners.
Any other further questions on that matter? Alright, question 4, submitted by an anonymous person. Can a rule be introduced where phones are only allowed during break and lunch?
So, I'm not off the idea, but I think I would want to get the views of parents and carers. I'd want to get the views from the wider learner body, and I'd want to speak to the staff before we made any hard and fast decisions about whole school rules about mobile phones. I'm also waiting for a bit of documentation to come out from the teaching unions and the government around school guidance that's coming out to all schools around access and use of mobile phones in schools. It's not a do-don't document, but it gives head teachers a bit of guidance as to what we should reasonably ask of learners when it comes down to their own mobile devices. So maybe in the new year, and certainly through the Pupil Council, there'll be more discussions around use of mobile phones and personal devices.
Any other further points on that matter?
Good question.
Alright, moving on. This question was submitted by Daniel White. When will we get a common room?
When will we get a common room? Well, the common room, this question is the first time I'm hearing of a real hunger for a common room, although I believe there might have been some rumblings amongst learners for a wee while. The priority for me is always around how do we get the best teaching and learning space for you? And I'm not going to sacrifice good teaching and learning space for a social area when, in actual fact, the size of our rooms means that we can't have any more than maybe 10, 12 people in a common room at any one time. So it wouldn't really get fair usage. As far as the bigger question for me is, what do we offer indoor space-wise at maybe breaks and lunches, which is a valid question and does need to be answered. I'm quite keen to look at that again in the new year based on the question that's been raised today. So we are going to have a little look at what can we offer you indoors at break and lunchtime as an alternative to being outside. But I do like you being outside. I think the fresh air is good for you, and I wouldn't want to discourage it.
Thank you. Question 6 from Joe Denham. When are you leaving the school?
Wow. The question. Okay, so so just to make you aware, the job I have here is a permanent job. So it's not for 6 months or a year. It's indefinitely, which means I could be here till the very end of my career. If I'm to put kind of labels on things, let me be very clear that we all, learners, staff, parents and carers, will have a job to do here, and I'm not leaving until the job is done. And that means continuing the work that started before I came, and then taking the new work forward in getting it right for you in your classrooms and across the school. That doesn't have a time frame on it. It's done when it's done. And I will be here until it's done. Thank you, Joe. He's not.
Any further questions on that matter? No? All right, moving on. Question 7 from Ben Phillip. Can I do a safety check on the school?
Can I do a safety check on the school?
Okay, first question for Ben.
Oh, right. So Ben would like to do a safety check on the school. Okay. Well, to put your mind at rest, there is a monthly health and safety walk round, which takes about an hour and a half, and it's done by me and the business manager, Alexandra, and we look at everything from the tiles to the fire extinguishers to how the furniture is arranged to the condition of the door handles and everything in between. So that happens every month. Every Friday morning, there is a fire safety walk round and the fire alarms are tested long before you come into the building. So that happens every Friday morning, and Paul, the janitor, does that. And then on top of that, every single member of staff in here, in this room, and across the school, we all have a collective corporate responsibility for health and safety. So if we see something that's broken, we need to report it to the business manager. If we have a fire exit, we must make sure if it's in our classroom that it's not blocked. If we have a fire extinguisher in our classroom, we must make sure it's not crowded with stuff. So there's lots of people in the school with health and safety in their heads. The senior team, we discuss it as an agenda item every Wednesday at our senior team meeting. And then in between times, if issues arise, then we also look at it. And yesterday is a good example where we ran out of salt. So Paul, the janitor, put out the salt on all the paths he was meant to. Job done, everybody's safe. But we had no salt left for today. So I put the appropriate email into the council, and they're fantastic, and they respond, and within an hour and a half, a ton of salt, literally a physical ton of salt, is delivered for the janitor to use for the rest of the term and into next term. So there's lots of eyes on health and safety. If people have any other questions about that, they can come and see me, or they can see Alexandra, the business manager. All right. Thanks, Darren.
You already answered this question, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yep.
Joe Denham, when are you going to listen to us?
Okay. So this is an example of what we're doing here of me listening, because these questions are from you. They're not from Darren, they're not from the teachers, they're from you, the learners. So this is one example. I have lots of you that come into my office through the week, staff and learners, and either tell me some information or ask me questions. And then we have the pupil council that we want to have in place next term. And we have the parent council, which I attend, I think it's 4 or 5 times a year, and I go to that. It's a 2-hour meeting in the evening. And all of those views and information, they all come into here. And then we make decisions. So there's lots of listening going on. If anybody has ideas about how I can listen better, then let me know, or let the deputies know, or let your PSA know, let your nursery nurse know, let your classroom teacher know. And then I can try and get it right. Right, Liam. Okay.
Thank you. Final question. Submitted by Liam McKeever. Do you think you are doing your job right?
Right. Well, I would ask just now for a show of hands, but we'll not do that because we don't have enough. We don't have a fair enough representation in the room. It's the head teacher's job is an interesting one, right? Are we listening? So when I was a classroom teacher and I had a PE class and I had children going for exams, I would often base much of am I doing it right based on the exam results. Because if I am getting my message across and I'm engaging learners in the learning, then their results will be as good as they can be. And that was a very easy way to measure, are you doing your job right? It's a lot more complicated as a head teacher because we're looking at 100 staff, we're looking at 98 learners, and we're looking at learners and families from all across the city. And we're not looking at exam results. We're looking at lots of different things. So if I ask myself the question, do I think I'm doing my job right? I think the answer is yes. I think it's yes because we're continuing to move things forward. Could we do it better? Yes, we can always do it better, all of us. And how do we know? There's lots of little bits of evidence that have already come through from staff and parents and you as learners. And there's going to be more information coming to me next term from the learners and parents and staff in the new year. So we're not just thinking we're doing well because we think it's getting better. We're basing it on data and evidence and listening to you and what you say to us. Not everybody's happy. You're never going to get everybody happy. But am I doing the best that I can? Yes. And are we moving forward as a school? Absolutely. But we're only doing that because of the hard work of the staff and the commitment from the families and the children that are here. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
Right. Okay, so the next set of question answers, I spoke to Mr Burge. We talked about the 5th of February.
Did we? 5th of February. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I recall that sounds about right there.
Alright. You can find, if you've got any questions for next set of question answers, you can come see me, Mr Chester, Mr Scott, or even Mr Burge, Mr Urgent. There'll be a box in the form on that shelf just there. You write your question down, pop the piece of paper in the box, it will be asked at the Q&A.
And in between times, you're all very welcome to come to me on your own, or with a friend, or with a member of staff, and ask me questions anytime. All right, the door is always open. I'll see lots of you through the day, and at the concert, and on your activities day tomorrow, and the disco on Friday. But if I don't get a chance to see you personally, I hope you have a lovely holiday, and we all look forward to seeing you back here in the new year. Thank you very much for having me.